Hello and welcome back to part 3. In the first couple of videos we've looked a little bit of how I modeled the Space Mountain dome, the Space Mountain sign, but we have not looked at what I did once I got it into Blender. So let's take a look at that now. Though this might be one of the longest videos of the 4 because this is where the most work was done. I'm not really going to talk about anything in any particular order, and again, this is not a full tutorial. This is a behind the scenes look at how this was done. It'll get you thinking about how some of these things were accomplished and maybe help out and start a conversation. When it comes to a lot of these animations, scale is a big deal. So what I did was I took an overhead view from Google Earth, Google Maps, and I placed that in the background with the top-down view. Doing that, I was able to position the Space Mountain dome where I wanted it. Then the sign. From an aerial view, I could tell where the Space Mountain sign was in relation to the dome and the scale of those two things, and that helped me position that to get started. So when you're looking at this, the sign is actually the actual distance it is from the dome that it is at the Magic Kingdom in Orlando in real life. Then I textured the dome using a mix of Polyhaven textures and also Blender Kit. I have Blender Kit installed here as an add-on. That's a huge help because you can just go right to find materials. And if I click on the dome parts here, you'll see like this is a white plaster that I use. That's just what I ended up liking the look of the best. And a lot of the materials in the dome are just white plaster. In part 1, I talked about how I modeled these lines in order for them to be textured a different color, and you'll see that in here that they're a different color paint, but they're actually all different solids. So I was able to group them together and easily paint them that different color that they are in real life. Other than that, it was pretty much just texturing all those lights, and then I added these lights on the side, which are similar to lights that are there in real life. And then I made those only about 15 watts and colored them yellow. And that's really it. And those lights are parented to stay there when the dome spins. Now I got this idea because of a Christmas ornament that I have of Space Mountain, where Christmas ornament on one side shows the dome, and then as it turns around, the other side's flat and it shows the inside of Space Mountain. So I thought, how do I take this animation to another level? Well, it'd be really cool if the dome spun around and actually opened up and we got an inside look at the coaster glowing. Then I got obsessed with this idea of, making the track. So inside you can see here is the track. Now this is 2 tracks, but it's 1 track mirrored because that's also how it is in real life. I did a roller coaster tutorial to figure out how to do a follow path constraint in order to make the roller coaster work. I'll go to the render view real quick just so you can see the inside of here, how this is rendered. Then I just added emissions to these and shows my color and strength to make the actual coaster cars emit. I decided after all of that I also wanted to see the track when the dome spins open. So here it is in this view here. Now I'm okay with it not looking like the actual real track because that would just be really chaotic and lots of metal. So I ended up just sticking with this pipe. I made this curve using Blender. I used a top-down view of what the actual track looks like in Space Mountain to make it as accurate as possible. But a lot of the up and down and vertical movements are not quite as accurate because I didn't have an exact blueprint of the track to work with. But I did the best that I could and made sure that nothing was interfere with anything else. As you can see, the lighting changes too as the dome spins open. Now this dome spins open on a parent. The parent was made in the middle, and then everything that I wanted to spin with that is parented to it. If I select everything in the project, you'll see all these keyframes here. These are all the keyframes that made my animation work. Now it looks like a lot. It is a lot. It's a lot of work. I mean, I put weeks of time into this. So this is the creativity here and the idea brought to life in these keyframes. This is a mixture of mostly just the things rotating for the dome to open up for a certain amount of time and then close. And it's a mixture of that and then the lights moving and the colors of the lights changing and the brightness of the lights changing. It's a bit overwhelming, I know, to look at, but really you just take things individually. At first I just had this. I had these particles floating around the sign, and I thought, oh, it'd be cool to have stars in the background and be really cool if the camera just like tracked in. Now this is before the dome even opened, so let's say the dome's not even opening. And the camera would just kind of track in, slowly track in, and then track back, and it would just loop. But then I wanted to take it to another level, and that's when I got the idea of the dome also opening every couple minutes. That that really was the closer that I needed to really complete this scene and make it on another level. When talking about the sign and the texturing, I used like aluminum, and then for these lights, again, this sign was built in plasticity. Watch part 2 if you want to see a little bit of how I made this. But these neon lights were made using an emission, and the color here you can see. And then as the camera tracks in, they're keyframed to change from that yellow to green and from that blue to pink. And I thought that was cool. I was like, oh, what if the sign changes colors when, you know, the dome opens up, because those colors have been used before in the actual park. It's just textured mostly using aluminum, and then, you know, emitting these. And then the particles, that was an add-on that I found, Dust Particles version 1 Pro, if you want to look that up. And then you just play around with all these settings and get them to how you want it. And I'm so glad that these guys were able to do that, because if I go to the geometry node editor and I have these particles clicked, you'll see this is what they did right here, right? This is no joke. And I like how they break it down into like, okay, here's the movement section, here's the material sense. Yeah, that just gives you an idea of how these particles are working. All these customizations were made under the modifier for them. I'll go back to the timeline and extend this back down. Below this sign, I'm using a add-on called Botaniq, and this is this drop down here, and you can spawn different flowers and trees and easily animate them. Once you convert it to an edible, you can add an animation, set your breathe strength or wind. I'll put a link to that add-on below, and it does help to have a powerful PC to do this stuff. What else can we talk about here? So I would say the lights are the other main thing. We've got the camera movement that just kind of goes back and forth as the dome opens. You'll see this piece slides out from behind. This little trick there that nobody could really see. And that's just because when it opened up, I was really struggling with these vertices and getting this piece right here to go away. When it was showing the inside, I didn't want this here, and I just didn't feel like spending too much time on it. So it's all problem solving. So I decided to come up with this trick where that just slides away, and then it slides back before it turns back, and you just never even notice that it's gone. So I have a lot of different lights here. First, I placed them how I wanted them for how the main scene would look, which is what we're looking at right now. I liked how it looked, and this is just how many lights it took to do it. You'll see there's some lights that just light up the sign as well. Like this backlight here on this sign is coming from up here. Where's that one coming from? Yeah, up here. So if I delete that, you'll see that backlight go away on the sign. As the dome opens up, over a 5,050 frame total sequence, at about 3,000 frames, I had the dome open up, and you'll see these lights sort of just pan up and away. This light is the one that you'll see kind of go to the back. These two are the main ones lighting up the inside that is purple. And then there's like one, I believe this is the one. Yeah, this is the one that shifts behind right here and becomes more of that hard-hitting backlight. Those are all of my lights. Then I decided, okay, this is really cool. Well, maybe I can make some sort of intro too. Let's reveal this world. So I decided to have it start just on the particles. Then the sign starts to light up. Space lights up, then mountain, then the blue light clicks on, and you're kind of like, what is this? This is our camera, and it's slowly tracking back into position. As it's tracking back, the lights are moving down, and it's revealing the dome, and it's like, oh wow, okay. We've got our Space Mountain sign here, and the dome, and the camera slides back into position. I used an HDRI as my background. Now before, I actually tried rendering this as an alpha, but the particles were not rendering well as an alpha, so I ended up having to put the environment directly in Blender. And then I used curves to adjust my lighting. I brought the highlights way down and got them to look like this. And I ended up exporting this as an open EXR for more flexibility with coloring. Once I get it into DaVinci, color depth I did float half, and quality 100%, 24 frames per second. Thanks for watching. I know this was a lot and it looks like a lot, but actually, you know, I started small and I just kept adding and adding more to it. If you like this kind of art and world building and Disney like I do, stay tuned. I would love to get to know you and hear from you. Stay safe, and be sure to watch part 4.